In this video, we'll cover an essential skill for any Roblox scripter, how to read and understand different errors in Roblox Studio. Debugging is a key part of programming, and being able to interpret error messages will save you a lot of time and frustration. So why do errors happen? Well, errors occur when something goes wrong in your code. They can result from typos, logic mistakes, or just trying to do something that's not allowed. Roblox Studio helps by providing error messages in the output window. These messages explain what went wrong and where. The output window can be found under View and Output. I also have the Properties and Explorer tabs enabled, but these are not necessary. I'm just going to show a few examples throughout this video. So let's break down how to understand these error messages. In Roblox Studio, errors typically fall into these categories. Syntax errors, which occur when your code doesn't follow the rules of the Lua programming language. Runtime errors, which happen when the code is syntactically correct but fails when executed. Logic errors, where the script runs without crashing but it doesn't do what you intended. These are harder to detect because Roblox Studio won't always give an error message for these. Type errors, which occur when you try to perform an operation on a value of the wrong type. Index errors, which occur when you try to access a field or index that doesn't exist. And infinite loops, which are caused by loops that never terminate, leading to a script timeout. On the screen now you can see an example of a syntax error. Now, can you spot the error here? It's quite simple, this one. It's just missing a closing quote. So if we were to hit test and play now and looked in our output window, you'd see here, malformed string, did you forget to finish it? Now anything red means there's an error. Let's have a look and try and diagnose this error message and see what it means. So we see it says server script service.script. That just means where the script is. So the script is called script, it's just named script, and it's under server script service. I'll show you when we exit test mode, but that just means the script is under server script service and the script is called script. And it also, this 2 means the error is on line 2. That's what this 2 means. So we've got the script, the line number, and then the error. So that's very important to remember because it's very useful being able to go back to debug later on. We can also see it says here script:2. This means it's on line 2. If we click this error, it will take us into the script where the error is. So it's here. So now that I've come out of test mode, you see I've got a script called script under server script service. Now let's fix this error. All we need is these quotation marks. And now if we was to hit test and play again, it prints hello world correctly. Now let's look at an example for a runtime error. I have made a couple of changes, so I've renamed the script to errors. It's still under server script service, but this is just so when we get the error, we're going to see it a bit clearer. And under our output window, I'm also going to press this brush to clear the output because we want a clean output for when we start the game. This normally happens automatically, but just in case it doesn't, we want to clear it anyway. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to assign a part which doesn't exist. As you can see under workspace, I have no part named non-existent part. And then I'm going to try and print the name of the part. So if I hit test and play, let's refer to our output window here. We don't actually see an error at first because the output window is too small, but we can scroll up. If we make the output window larger, we can now see all our errors in one place. And as you can see, it says non-existent part is not a valid member of workspace. So again, let's diagnose this. So it's not telling us where the script is this time, but if we look to the right, it does say it here. So it doesn't give us the server script service.errors like it did last time, but it does say here errors:2, and if we hover over it, it does say server script service.errors. So that is everything we need to know in one place. We don't need the front bit. So just hover over this. It says server script service.errors. Errors:2 means it's on line 2, and it says non-existent part is not a valid member. So let's click this and see what this means. Well, this just means that the part we're looking for doesn't exist. That's what that means. So line 2, so the non-existent part is not a valid member of workspace. So that means this part, a part named non-existent part, does not exist within the workspace. Let's have a look, workspace, and there is no part named non-existent part. To fix this, I could change the base plate to non-existent part. Let's stop the script and rename this part here, which is my base plate, to non-existent part, and then it will print it. It prints the name of the non-existent part. I'll change that back to part. Now let's have a look at logic errors. So a logic error is a lot harder to simulate because a logic error is just when something happens that wasn't expected, which is normally a mistake on your end. So let's say you're doing some maths on a variable, and you want to check when the calculation is equal to a certain number, but you've done something wrong, so it never reaches that. That's not a problem with the code. That's just a problem with where you've written the code. That's a problem with your logical thinking behind it. So they are a bit harder to simulate, but I've sort of done it. I've given it a go here. So what I've done is create a flag, which I've set to false. If the flag is false, then it's meant to set the flag to true. We're going to wait 3 seconds and check if it's true, and if it is, we're going to print true. So what we're doing here is setting flag to false, but this is meant to be flag equals true. But I'm doing flag equals false because that's the logic error. That's the error where I've accidentally made it false and not true. So let's hit test and play. Again, drag up our output. So we've got to wait a few seconds. Remember, it said wait 3, so 1, 2, 3. We haven't had an output yet. Give it a bit longer. Okay, now it's taken a little while. It's taken a lot longer than we'd expect, and we don't get anything in the output here. So this is why these are a bit trickier to check, to debug. So let's have a look at the code. So we haven't got the output we're looking for. Why is that? So this is where we just have to go and analyze all the code line by line. So local flag is false. That's correct. If the flag is false, then we want to set it to true. Oh, but we're setting it to false, so we want to change that to true. And the rest looks fine, so now let's hit play and see if it works. So wait a few seconds, 1, 2, 3, there we go. It does print true, and now it works. So with logic errors, they are more about analysing the code you've written. You're not going to get an error message necessarily, so you do want to just pay good attention to the code if you don't get the expected output. Now let's look at an example of a type error. Now type errors are a bit less common as well, because normally you know what you're going to do with the data type, but in this example I've created a new variable called myString, which I've set to a string, which is hello world. I'm then going to print the string, but I'm adding 5 to it. Now in a real scenario, you're never going to add 5 to a string unless you're concatenating it, in which case you'd use ... But let's say I was meant to concatenate it, so I was meant to use ... So this would be hello world 5, but I've accidentally used plus instead. Let's see what happens. Because obviously you can't do maths with a string and a number, we do get this error. Attempt to perform arithmetic add on string and number. Again, it tells us where the error is. It's coming from line 3 of the errors script, so let's click on it. Oh yeah, we're using plus and not ... So let's fix that. Oh yeah, we're in testing mode. You have to exit testing mode to make changes to a script. So we change that to ... and then it should say hello world 5. There we go, and it does. This is still not good practice. Ideally, you want to convert this to a string first by just using a toString function. It does do it automatically now, but I'm not sure if in older versions of LuaU it works like that. But you should, it's good practice to convert it to a string anyway. Now let's look at an example for an index error. So this one's a bit more complicated. So what I've done here is create a new variable called myVariable, which I've set to nil. And then I'm going to check if my variable.name is equal to hello world, then we're going to print name matches. So let's hit play and see what happens. So it says server script service.errors line 3, attempt to index nil with name. So what this error is saying is the object that we're trying to get the name property of. So if we go to errors here, we're trying to get .name, but we can't because it says attempt to index nil. Index nil, that means that this variable here is nil. We are trying to get the name. We're trying to get the name of something that's nil. So if it says attempt to index nil with name, have a look at the .name. See what's before the dot. So what's before the dot here? We've got my variable. That means my variable is nil, which just means that there's no object, no data assigned to it. Normally this happens as a mistake, so you've accidentally used find first child and not wait for child or something, and it never loaded in at the time, so you got nil, and you didn't actually get the object. So just be wary of these. They can be quite hard to debug, because you do need to look back at the variables, make sure they're all assigned properly. Now let's look at an example of an infinite loop. These are really easy to do when you're, especially when you're working with while loops. I've just got a while true do print. This will run forever, and this will do exactly that. It will run forever, and eventually you'll get script timeout, exhausted, allowed execution time error. Let's hit test and play. Open our output, and you see it's taking ages for the project to run. If you do have a slow computer, I recommend maybe don't do this one. but eventually it says this will run forever. It prints it, it keeps freezing, and if we just wait, it will eventually give us a script timeout error. There we go. Script timeout exhausted allowed execution time. It did take a long time to happen, but eventually the performance lagged so much, it was like we need to terminate the script. So watch out for these, because as you just saw when I run my game, that really struggled. If you have a very low end computer, laptop or anything, this will probably crash your studio and you'll have to reopen it, and you might lose everything you say. So make sure you save before you test. Always save your project before you do a test. But this, you don't want to encounter this. You never want an infinite loop. But that's easy to fix. We just need to maybe make a while wait 0.1 do or something. And now that means every 1/10 of a second it's going to wait a little bit of time, because this is trying to do it when we do while true, it's trying to do it every single sort of tick of the processor when it's handling this project. Whereas if we do while wait, it does give it time between, even if you don't have anything in the while wait, it does default. I think it's about 0.003 or something like that seconds. But it does have a bit of time. That's all you need. You just need a little bit of time. Now let's have a look at how we can actually debug our code. So here's a step-by-step approach to debugging errors. First, you want to read the error message. Look at the output window to identify the type and location of the error. Go to the line to double-click the error message to jump to the line in your script where the issue occurred. Analyze the code. Check for common issues like typos, missing characters, or incorrect logic. Use print statement. Insert print statements to track the flow of your script and identify where things go wrong. So in this example here, we're trying to assign a part that doesn't exist, and then if that part does exist, we're printing high. But it doesn't work, because when we first run it, it throws an error. It will throw the error that the object doesn't exist that we're looking for. So if we print part fetched, we know that the error didn't happen. But because the error is happening, we're not even printing this, so we know where it's going wrong. A better example is when you don't have errors. So if we were to use : find first child, non-existent part, and if I just comment this out quickly. Now if we hit play, you see we don't get any output, but we're expecting an output. So why is that? Let's have a look. We're looking for a part, and if the part exists, we're printing high. So why is it not working? Let's have a look at debugging it. So we're going to insert a print statement. We're going to print part fetched. But actually, a better way is if we just print the part. So we want to print part, and then it will print whatever this variable is equal to. So if this doesn't exist, if it's not finding anything, it will get set to nil by default. So if we print part and it's nil, we know that it couldn't find that part. So let's have a look. It prints nil, so we know, oh, so the problem's not this if statement. The problem is that the part isn't finding the object we're looking for. So let's change this to, maybe we need to change the name, maybe we need to add the part. Then you can debug from there, but it's just about adding prints to sort of see the flow of your code and where things are going wrong. So let's debug a simple script together. I've got this script here. This is the problem code. So local myPart is game.workspace.part, and we're going to print myPart.position. Now let's introduce an error by renaming the part in the workspace to myPart. So this part I'm going to rename to myPart. When you run the script, you'll see this error. Part is not a valid member of workspace. To fix it, let's update the script. So again, we're going to click on it. It's on line 1, so let's have a look. Stop our test mode, let's have a look. So local myPart is game.workspace.part. So to fix this, we need to change this to game.workspace.myPart. And then print myPart.position. Now run again, and it prints the position of the part. So now it does work. So let's do a little recap. In this video, we learned how to read and understand error messages in Roblox Studio by identifying the type of error, analysing the error message, and using debugging techniques like print statements. You can resolve issues effectively. If you found this helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.